Emotive Dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Gambian CSOs call for the immediate reinstatement of the Post-Auditor General to safeguard democracy.
The Auditor General must be reinstated without delay to complete the lawful 9-year tenure. Should the President seek removal, it must be done strictly according to the Constitution and NAO Act.
Nigeria's Rivers State Governor Fubara resumes office 6 months after suspension. ECOWAS Chair President Madabio visited Burkina Faso to strengthen regional cooperation.
We seem to be divided, but I don't see that division, and I'm working as chair of ECOWAS to see how I can bring them back.
And 11 West African nationals sue Ghana over alleged unlawful detention. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners within and beyond the sub-region. Newslink begins in the Gambia for a developing story on the forceful removal of Auditor General Mudu Sise. The latest is that civil society organizations in the country are raising their voices loud and clear, condemning what they call dangerous overreach by President Adama Barrow following the forceful removal of the Auditor General. They describe the move as a shocking breach of the Constitution and the National Audit Office Act. According to these groups, the president's move do not only threaten the rule of law and democratic governance, but strikes the very heart of the Gambian sovereignty, warning that the same democratic system that brought him to power is now being undermined by his own actions. Here is Lamin Diba, an activist, presenting the statement on behalf of all civil society organizations.
The bitter irony of history is that the individual who benefited most from the people's rejection of dictatorship, President Adama Barrow, is now dismantling the very democratic order that elevated him to power. In blatant violation of the Constitution and the National Audit Office Act, the President has unlawfully and forcefully removed the Auditor General, the head of one of the Gambia's most vital independent accountability institutions. This illegal act represents not only a direct assault on democracy and the rule of law, but also an attack on the sovereignty of the Gambian people. Worse still, the president has turned the police into instruments of repression, weaponizing them to intimidate citizens who exercise their constitutional rights to free expression and peaceful assembly. We make the following urgent demands. Number one, the Auditor General must be reinstated without delay to complete the lawful 9-year tenure. Should the President seek removal, it must be done strictly according to the Constitution and NAO Act, by convening a medical board or a tribunal as required by law. The Gambia Police Force must cease all unlawful actions against the Auditor General and any other citizen exercising their constitutional rights.
Lamin Diba is an activist who presented the concerns of all civil society organizations in the country, demanding the immediate reinstatement of Auditor General Mudu Sise. Meanwhile, earlier, members of the Gambia National Assembly have condemned the forceful removal of the Auditor General Mudu Sise from office. The lawmakers deemed the executive action as unconstitutional and retaliatory acts. The Assembly urged President Adama Barrow to reconsider his decision and demand the immediate reinstatement of Sise. Take a listen to some of the National Assembly members on the floor of Parliament.
Honourable members, this is a moment for Parliament to demonstrate courage, foresight, and unwavering commitment to the principle of good governance. And let us not allow silence or inaction to legitimize the illegality.
Forcefully removing the Auditor General from his office, that is not correct. Auditor General must go back to his office no matter what.
Here what we see is an abuse of office, an abuse of authority by the President.
So how can the president just come in the name of promotion that he will be relocated to Minister of Trade?
The Office of the Auditor General is doing their work, and it seems the executive are not comfortable about it, considering the corruption scandals.
I will urge these National Assembly members to initiate impeachment proceedings if the president don't reverse this decision.
And those are some of the National Assembly members on the floor of Parliament demanding the immediate reinstatement of Auditor General Modou Cissé from office in the Gambia. Away from the Gambia, let's turn attention to some regional diplomatic issues where ECOWAS chair and Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio has become the very first leader of the bloc to visit a member of the Sahelian Alliance of States AES in a move that has been hailed by regional observers as a turning point in relations. Bio, who took over from the chairmanship of ECOWAS in June, met with Burkina Faso's leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré as the president at the presidential palace in Koluba. During the state visit, President Bio reaffirmed his commitment to fostering closer ties and cooperation between ECOWAS and the Sahel Alliance during a one-day surprise visit, promising to make sure that peace returns to Burkina Faso. The brief visit comes after tense regional relations between the AES bloc and ECOWAS. The junta-led West African nation of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso formally withdrew from the regional bloc of ECOWAS in January this year. State media in Burkina Faso reported that talks touched on regional security and international relations as analysts said the trip reflects growing acceptance of the breakaway bloc. Here is President Julius Maada Bio.
I'm here on behalf of West Africa, ECOWAS, and also myself as a person, and on behalf of Sierra Leone. I'm here the second time because we have to show solidarity with a country that is making a great effort, but yet still held back because of the security situation. We were once together, but today, because of certain developments, we seem to be divided. But I don't see that division. And I'm working as chair of ECOWAS to see how I can bring them back. We stay together. We are brothers. We can never be divided. So my visit here is solidarity, to show solidarity, to show him and Burkina Faso that you are not in this alone.
ECOWAS chair and Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio. Still in the Sahel, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger are preparing to leave the International Criminal Court ICC. The issue of a coordinated withdrawal was discussed earlier this week in Niamey during a meeting of ministers of justice of the three neighboring countries. Francis Boniface completes the story.
For the member states of the AES Confederation, the International Criminal Court (ICC) has increasingly become a tool of external influence and advancing foreign interests at the expense of African nations. Bamako, Ouagadougou, and Niamey have expressed a desire to revisit their commitments to the Rome Statute, which established the ICC. In much the same way as their decision to withdraw from ECOWAS, the AES member states are expected to formally announce in the coming weeks their shared intention to pull out of the ICC. Following this announcement, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger will need to individually notify the court of their decision. The withdrawal would then take effect at least 1 year after the submission of such request. The AES is considering the establishment of a Sahel Penal Court for Human Rights, which would serve a similar purpose to the ICC by prosecuting international crimes. However, this proposed court would add to its mandate the prosecution of terrorism-related offenses, organized crime, and issues that affect the Central Sahel. Plans are also on the way for the construction of a high-security prison to be shared by all three member states. In Burkina Faso, for instance, several individuals have already been sentenced to heavy prison terms for acts of terrorism. Mali and Niger are currently home to numerous detainees accused of terrorism within the prison systems.
Francis Boniface filed that report. Finally, from the Sahel, but on matters of security, particularly in Mali, the armed forces has announced the neutralization of several terrorists in the military operations conducted in Kidal, the north of the country. The General Staff of the Armed Forces also added that equipment belonging to armed groups were also destroyed. More details with Augustin Colley.
The Malian armed forces say they have intensified operations against armed groups in the country's north. An area surveillance mission carried out Wednesday in Kidal targeted a pickup truck and several motorcycles used by militants, resulting in what the army described as the neutralization of multiple suspects. In a statement, the military command stressed that operations are ongoing across Mali, particularly in areas threatened by growing insecurity. The offensive comes amid a surge of attacks by the Al-Qaeda-linked group JNIM, which has increasingly targeted oil supply routes. The latest incident occurred on September 14 along the Kai-Bamako axis between Lakamani and Kanira, where several tanker trucks were destroyed. Earlier last week, Malian Prime Minister Abdoulaye Diop met with members of the Malian Association of Petroleum Professionals, urging closer cooperation between government and the private sector to safeguard fuel convoys and guarantee the stability of the country's vital oil supply chain.
Augustine qualified that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to Liberia, where President Joseph Boakai has suspended Deputy Minister for Youth Development Brian Magel following rape allegations that have stirred national outrage, sparking renewed questions about the government's commitment to equal justice. While the president's action has been met with cautious approval, women's rights groups and concerned citizens argue that suspension is not enough. They point out that rape is a non-bailable offense under Liberian law and are demanding Magel's immediate arrest and prosecution. On Thursday, a coalition of women's rights advocates petitioned the National Police, insisting that the law must be applied equally. The group noted that ordinary citizens face incarceration on similar charges and stressed that the deputy minister should not be given special treatment. Here are some members of the coalition of women's rights advocates petitioning the National Police today, insisting that the law must be applied equally.
Trying to compromise their case and will not allow it. If the police do not arrest Brian, we will arrest him. Come on, if it is not handled the right way, it will serve as a deterrent, positive or negative. So we have to do the right thing because it is true we are aware that the law provides that we should follow procedures, which is fine. But they have not been following those procedures over the years. So why now? It will make the public do not even trust the police. Because in the first place, maybe tomorrow, soon, who knows? If you want to go and arrest that person, people will refuse and there will be violence. People will take justice in their hands. So this is why we are trying to prevent it. That's let the police take action to arrest him and let him be on police custody for now while the investigation is going. Because a presence out there, take up with evidence. If they want to bring about change in following the procedure, then they should visit those who are already into practice. They'll go pre-trial issues start from there. What I would recommend to them is that if they want to bring about this change to follow those constitutional procedures, let it start from those who have already been victimized. There is where the change should start from. It is being established there. Then we have thousands of innocent people in there. Then they are now talking about procedure.
The fact that the investigation has been very delayed like this, it means that man has been empowered to influence decisions or investigation or any evidence. So again, this is a government official. This is a man who is a member of the municipality. So we will have to trust the judge's decision, but the first step to justice is to ensure that the rape suspect is behind bars.
And those are some members of the coalition of women's rights advocates who petitioned the National Police today, calling for the immediate arrest and prosecution of Liberia's Deputy Minister for Youth Development, Brian Magel, over alleged rape offenses. Let me take you to Liberia at the moment, where Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, and his deputy, Ngozi Odo, have resumed leadership of the state affairs following the expiration of a 6-month emergency rule. The jubilant crowd of supporters assembled at the government house to welcome the duo back to the governance. President Bola Tinubu had on March 18, 2025 declared the executive action following a part-tussle between Fubara and his predecessor, Peter Obi. Abdullah Hassan reports.
After months of rising tension in the state built on the fight between the two political heavyweights, President Tinubu on March 18 placed Rivers under an emergency rule. Tinubu had justified his intervention as crucial to protect the Niger Delta oil-rich region from plunging into chaos. Retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, who was immediately sworn in as the sole administrator of Nigeria's economic lifeline, said this Wednesday evening as he handed over to the elected officials after the emergency rule.
Now, as I hand back the reins of leadership to His Excellency Governor Siminalayi Fubara, I do so with confidence and respect. I urge all Rivers people to support him wholeheartedly because leadership and followership is a shared responsibility. No matter how competent, no matter how clear a vision may be, it can only come to fruition and thrive with the active support of citizens. For me, this is the closing of another chapter in life, devoted to service at sea, in diplomacy, and now in governance.
It should be noted that Governor Fubara's tenure encountered turbulence mere months after his inauguration in May 2023, stemming from a fallout with his predecessor and current Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Newslink Wike, over political control of the state. The power struggle spiraled into broader conflict, polarizing the House of Assembly and intensifying internal discord. With governance now returning to democratic leadership under Governor Fubara, the state begins a new chapter in its political journey. However, for several CSOs, they are calling on President Bola Tinubu to disclose the amount spent during the 6-month emergency rule in the state, headed by Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired.
And finally, in Nigeria, the clamor for state police in the country is back at the center of national debate. President Bola Tinubu and several governors have voiced their strong support, but critics fear the idea could be abused by politicians and hampered by weak funding. Nonetheless, Governor Caleb Mufwang of Plateau State at an event disclosed his readiness to kick off the security with an initial of over 1,400 personnel. You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. We are also live on Facebook at WADR English service, as well as Facebook at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Gambian CSOs call for the immediate reinstatement of the post Auditor General to safeguard democracy. ECOWAS Chair President Mada Bio visited Burkina Faso ahead to strengthen regional cooperation, and Nigeria's Rivers State Governor Fubara resumes office after 6 months of suspension. Still ahead in the news, 11 West African nationals sue Ghana over alleged unlawful detention. Still ahead in the news, we do have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to Ghana, where 11 West African nationals from Nigeria, Liberia, Togo, and the Gambia, as well as Mali, have taken the government of Ghana to Human Rights Court in Accra. They accused the state of unlawful detention, alleging they were secretly removed from the U.S. immigration facilities and are flown into Ghana earlier this month without due process. The suit, which invokes the constitutional right to liberty, is seeking urgent relief from the court. From Accra, Nade Detete reports.
The 11 applicants, through their lawyer, have filed for a writ of habeas corpus, a legal order that compels the state to produce detainees in court and justify the basis of their detention. According to court documents, the applicants claim they were granted protection against removal by U.S. immigration courts under the Convention Against Torture. Despite this, they allege they were secretly placed on a flight to Ghana on September 5th and 6th and have since been held at a suspected military facility without access to due process. They argue that their detention violates Article 14 of Ghana's 1992 Constitution, which guarantees personal liberty and protection against arbitrary arrests. The respondents in the case are the Attorney General, the Chief of Defence Staff, and the Controller General of Immigration. The High Court is expected to hear the habeas corpus its application today, Thursday, September 18. News of the arrangement with the United States of America for Ghana to receive these West African nationals first came to light during President Mahama's encounter with journalists last Wednesday. The president confirmed the arrival of the first group and stressed that the government would act in line with the law.
We agreed with them that West African nationals were acceptable because all our fellow West Africans don't need a visa to come to our country. So if they decided to travel from US to Accra, they don't need a visa anyway. So if you're bringing our colleague West Africans back, I mean, that's okay. And so I think that agreement has been activated, and a first batch of 14 nationals came.
Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has also reiterated the government's position while revealing that more nationals will be arriving soon.
It was purely on humanitarian basis, and we have made clear that we did not accept any financial benefit whatsoever. We are doing this because we want to continue to position Ghana as that country which has always been the Mecca for Africans. The choice is theirs, really. For 90 days, if they want to stay here, they can stay. But so far, all of them have indicated that they want to go back after some time, and we've been facilitating that. I can reveal to you that we are expecting another 40 in the next few days.
For now, all eyes are on the Human Rights Court, where the applicants are seeking urgent protection and a ruling to secure their release. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In our guest interview this evening, we focus on a regional diplomatic issue where ECOWAS chair and Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio, as the first leader of the bloc to visit a member of the Sahelian Alliance of States AES, in a move that has been hailed by regional observers as a turning point in relations. During the state visit, President Bio reaffirmed his commitment to fostering closer ties and cooperation between ECOWAS and the Sahelian Alliance during the one-day surprise visit, promising to make sure that peace returns to Burkina Faso. Our guest, Kopeb Dabugat, governance expert, shares with WADR the significance of this visit and the possible impact on ECOWAS.
The founding of the AES has been a particular problem for peace and security, not just within the Sahelian states, but within the larger West African region and, of course, the Sahel. The insecurity within the Sahel has a very peculiar linkage with what happens in West Africa because it crosses over into the West African countries, particularly the northern parts of several of the coastal countries, including Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and what have you. So it's important that ECOWAS and the AES builds a relationship that will ensure they are able to work together more closely. I think that is the context within which President Maada Bio visited Burkina Faso on a walking visit. And I think even the discussions that they had during this visit centers very clearly on that. His visit is a landmark visit because this is the first ECOWAS president to visit an AES country. It shows that at least the ECOWAS, first of all, is coming to terms with the fact that these countries have exited ECOWAS and is trying to forge a new way forward, a new way that involves cooperation, a new way that involves working together to achieve, what is clearly interests that are shared among these people, these two categories of countries. So in my own thinking, while this shows a sort of rapprochement, it shows a sort of agreement to work together.
Do you think this will at some point bring back these AES countries that have left ECOWAS?
I think it may not necessarily mean that the Sahelian countries are going to return back to the ECOWAS region. Rather, it just means that it can be the door opener for such an arrangement, perhaps in the future. And of course, there is no incentive, so to say, for these countries to stay apart from ECOWAS, mainly based on the fact that they are military juntas. Perhaps, maybe when the military juntas pass on to democratic ones, perhaps that discussion on coming back to ECOWAS may actually come to terms.
Kopeb Dabugat is a governance expert, sharing his expert opinion on the significance of Madabio's visit to Burkina Faso. And in sports news, I'm joined by Augustin Colley for the details.
Good evening, Chris. The 2025-2026 season of the Total Energies CAF Champions League officially gets underway this Friday, September 19, with the kickoff of the preliminary stages of Africa's premier continental club competition. This season marks a historic milestone with a record number of 62 clubs registered for the season, underscoring CAF's ongoing efforts to broaden participation and enhance the competitiveness of African football. To further support clubs across the continent, CAF has introduced a new financial initiative. Teams eliminated in the first two preliminary rounds will each receive $100,000 to assist in covering logistical expenses. Winners of last season's Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup, RS Berkane will face Togo's ASC Kara in their opening encounter. Last season's semi-finalists, Orlando Pirates face a tricky test against Lesotho's Lioli FC, while Zambia's Power Dynamos meet Ivorian heavyweights ASEC Mimosas. And elsewhere in Europe, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, Liverpool and Paris Saint-Germain all recorded when it starts to their 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League campaigns. Coming up in tonight's feature, Barcelona will be without Lamine Yamal for their Champions League opener at Newcastle, but welcome back Frankie de Jong after injury. Meanwhile, Manchester City welcomes Italian side Napoli as Monaco of France takes on Club Brugge of Belgium, while Eintracht Frankfurt of German Bundesliga welcome Galatasaray of the Turkish League One. And that's the latest in the world of sports.
Thank you very much, Augustin Colley. And of course, as a Chelsea fan, you know that it was really a hard moment for lots of Chelsea fans yesterday. But all the same, many thanks, Augustin Colley, for the latest in the world of sports. And with that, we've come to the end of this evening's edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Many thanks to you for listening, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Ismaila Kamara for the technical assistance. Connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Coming up is Enviroscope, our environment program with Abdullah Hassan. I am Christopher Ticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.